Hey there. So I wanted to answer a quick question that was posted earlier yesterday. You can see it here on my board in front of me. How do we divide radicals with the quotient property? And we've got this problem here, 4 times the square root of 8x to the third divided by the square root of 20x to the fifth. Before we dive into the problem, just wanted to do a quick refresher of quotient rule or quotient property, which I'm going to show here on my screen right now. This should hopefully make it a bit easier to understand where this problem is going, how we're getting to that answer. So the quotient rule says that if I have a square root or a radical on the top and the bottom part of a fraction, that I can combine them underneath one radical and just put the fraction on the inside. I personally like this with numbers a bit more than with variables because I think it makes a bit more sense that way. So if you take a look at my example here, this is showing how it works. If I've got the square root of 50 on the top, square root of 2 on the bottom, I can combine those underneath one radical sign. So we get here square root of 50 over 2. And then I can simplify a bit on the inside. 50 over 2 gives me 25. And the square root of 25 is going to give us an answer of 5. Now, why is this rule important? How is this going to help us solve the problem? There are a couple of reasons why the rule is important. For now, the one that matters the most is that it helps us to simplify things a bit. Sort of showing the breakdown for this problem, uh, I can break down the square root of 50 into these two parts, the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. And then from there, that does make it a bit easier to simplify, right? If I have this sort of the same way that you would think as a division problem, well, here I've got my square root of 50. I've split it up into square root of 25 times square root of 2. And then if you look, we have some parts that are the same at the top and the bottom of this fraction here, right? I can eliminate the square root of 2 on the top and on the bottom, and I'm left with just the square root of 25 left over. So it does help us simplify things a bit. This will help us out with that problem that was posted on Wyzant yesterday. Let's go ahead and dive into that. So I've got my board here in front of me. I've got my problem here on the left, as you can see. I am going to just say before this, I'm assuming that you guys know who are watching that the square root of x squared is equal to x. I can dive into that a bit more in another video if need be. But let's start off with this problem. Personally, I think it makes it a bit easier to start splitting this up into parts first and then trying to use our quotient rule from there. So let's start with the top part of that fraction. I've got my 4 on the outside. On the inside, I've got 8x to the third. I'm actually going to split this up like you see here on my screen. So I have that 4 that's in the front, but I split up the part underneath the square root. I split it up into, instead of 8, square root of 4 times square root of 2. Instead of x to the third, I have square root of x squared and square root of x. And then for the part at the bottom, well, I have 20. I know that 20 is the same as 4 times 5. And I have x to the fifth. I'm going to split that up into x squared, and x. So you can see I've got my two parts right over here. Now again, the reason why this is important is that through quotient rule, we know that we can sort of combine them. We can divide some of those factors that are the same on the top and the bottom. And now that I've written it out this way, I think it's a bit easier to see which of those factors are the same. So I'm seeing I've got square root of 4 for both of these. I've got an x squared, or rather square root of x squared for both of them. And then I've also got that part with square root of x. So let's go ahead and let's cross that off as well. So now as I'm running my terms that are left over, well, if I look at the top part of this, I've got a 4 left, and I've got a square root of 2. So that I'm going to just write as 4 square root of 2. And then at the bottom, I've got the square root of 5, and I've also got the square root of x squared, but again, square root of x squared is just equal to x, so that just gives me an x here at the bottom. And this right here, this is my simplified answer. This is solving that problem using the quotient rule.